This is the Aftermarket Radio Network.
Well, hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Auto Repair Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Walker, and today my guest is Hallie Wasinger. And Hallie is our web project manager and somewhat still involved with our ads team here at Shop Marketing Pros.
I was wondering which one you were going to go with or how you were going to introduce me.
But that is temporary, and what we talk about today will actually tell some of that story. Today, we are going to talk about the great Shop Marketing Pros website debacle. Before I get too far into that, I want to thank our sponsors, RepairPal. Thank you to our friends at RepairPal for this episode. RepairPal will introduce your shop to new customers through RepairPal.com, the largest site for auto repair. Learn more at RepairPal.com/shops. And I'd also like to thank AppFueled. Are you ready to convert clients to members? AppFueled specializes in creating custom apps tailored specifically for auto repair businesses. Build client loyalty. Get started today with your own customer loyalty app. Visit appfueled.com. Well, hi, Hallie.
Hey.
I'm glad to have you here today. This is going to be an interesting topic.
It is. And I just happened to be in town to record in person when you said you were recording this. So
yeah, actually, this is the first time that I've actually used the podcast studio in quite a while.
You're welcome.
and it forced me to get out here and clean up because the podcast studio is actually in my shop. Like, I don't think a lot of people realize if you're watching this on video, those toolboxes behind me, that's not just a picture.
Yeah.
And I had a guest on the podcast one time that had been seeing the studio, and they thought the entire time that was like a virtual background.
Really?
Until they saw me like open a drawer.
Yeah.
It is both a podcast studio and a actual live shop environment.
Yeah, I've definitely borrowed tools out of that toolbox back there. So can confirm it is real.
Yeah. People don't realize that. But anyway, I'm glad to be back in the studio. I'm glad to have had a reason to get out here and clean it up.
Yep.
So thank you for that. But again, today we're going to be talking about what I'm calling the great SMP website debacle of 2024. And, I tell our listeners often, or when we're in classes, I will tell people often to use their comebacks in their marketing.
Yeah.
To use their mistakes. Because people, first of all, they know that there's no such thing as a perfect person, but they also don't trust perfect people or people who try to come off like they're perfect.
Yeah.
So, but what does matter to them is how you handle it when something doesn't go right.
Exactly.
So I say all the time to use your comebacks in your marketing. Create a video, show the comeback, what happened, and talk about how you handled it. And that's exactly what we're going to do today. Is we're going to talk about what happened with our website team earlier this year and how we fixed it. And it was a debacle. So first, let me just kind of tell the story of what happened. Many of you who, if you're our clients, you know Michelle. Michelle currently is the director of our SEO team, and she does an amazing job. Previously, she was the director of both our SEO team and our website. And as we grew, it just became too much for one person to handle. So we ended up going out and hiring a web project manager, and we went through a few.
We did, yeah.
And actually, I wasn't even thinking about the previous ones between Michelle and the web project manager who was the person today. I'm not going to say this person's name or anything. This person is not a bad person, okay? No. So, what you hear today, they were not a bad person. They were not capable of keeping up with an agency pace.
Yeah.
And that's okay because not everybody can do that. But what I'm really going to talk about today was my massive failure in this, but also the way that we made it right. And it's important. Again, this is not a bad person, but we went through 3 people.
We did.
And it's difficult to find people who are organized and system-minded and who can handle the pace of an agency,
Right.
And many people don't understand about the pace of an agency, but an agency can be kind of a crazy place.
An agency, I would describe coming into an agency as like drinking out of a fire hose. You can prepare as much as you want for a role, but until you get into it and actually start doing it, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah. It's like one of the busiest shops that you would have ever seen.
Right.
just like everyone else, we're out there, trying to be competitive with our prices and everything else. We're definitely on the higher end with our prices, but we still have to be competitive. And I have to run a solid, profitable business.
Yeah. And being on the higher end of our prices comes with a certain standard of quality too.
Yep.
And that today is what we're talking about upholding.
Yeah. Yeah, because we're not doing it. What happened was we hired this person who was an experienced CMO. They were a chief marketing officer for an organization and also had done some project management in the past. And we thought that we had the perfect hire. And honestly, in the very beginning, it felt that way.
Yeah.
But as we got into it, we got about 2 months in, and man, my spidey senses were just going nuts. Like I knew that something wasn't right. And that's going to be lesson number 1 as we're talking today. If your spidey senses are telling you that something is off, something is off.
Right.
And I knew it. And, we as a leadership team discussed it. But when you would look at things, it was like, yeah, no, I think it's okay.
Yeah.
But obviously it wasn't. And, we would check in with her and she would tell us, yeah, everything is good. All is fine. We trusted her. When we hire, we really look to make sure that we're getting the person of the right type that is going to fit in the culture,
right,
and someone that we can trust.
Well, and that's what I was going to say. You trusted her as you do all of us. I think that is, like you said, a big thing when we hire is you're hiring someone, particularly in this position, to lead a team of other people. So you have to have that trust. Yeah.
We want to have people on our team that we can trust. And I guess I got to the point where I was used to that. Mm-hmm. So when this person was telling us that everything is okay, I believe that everything was okay.
Right.
We get 6 months in and I'm like, something is really not right. And, I've got other people on the leadership team checking in. And then there came a certain point where our team started telling us something's not right.
Well, and I think it's important to note too, like the team, and speaking as one of those team members, we all did get to a point too, just like your spidey senses were tingling, where we were starting to kind of feel like our spidey senses were tingling too. And even those that, because at the time I did not work that closely with the website department. I was kind of in my own ads world and we overlapped sometimes, but not during the build process. And I think that is a lesson too, is, we were 6 months in before even the team really started to say, I think something might be wrong. So I think that goes hand in hand with what you said is lesson number 1, is you should have trusted your gut from the beginning too.
And there will come a story at the end of this where I trusted my gut,
right,
because I absolutely learned from that mistake. Finally, we just stopped taking her word for everything is okay and started digging in. And when we dug in, we saw the ugly reality of what was truly going on. And, we found things like a website project that was 2 months in that had not been started yet.
Right.
We found one where the client had not been communicated with in 6 weeks, another one where the client had not been communicated with in just over a month. And we found a lot of things like that. And ultimately, of about 30 website projects that we had going on, every single one of them was behind in some way or another.
Well, and I think it's important to point out too, like 30 website projects too is a lot of projects for us at one time. And we never intended to have 30 active website projects going on. But because projects started getting backed up, they started to bottleneck. And that's how we ended up with 30 on our plate.
Yeah. Yeah. That is lesson number 2 also, is when you feel like something is wrong, don't just take the person's word for it. Maybe you do the first time.
Yeah.
The first time, okay. But if you're still feeling like something is wrong, you have to dig in. You've got to get your hands into the process and you've got to look at it and see what is the reality of this situation.
Right.
And we didn't do that. Again, that was another massive failure on my part and on our leadership team's part. We should have done this, but we have always worked with people that we could believe what it was that they were telling us. And, and again, like I said, this was not a bad person, but this is someone who I guess in hindsight did not want to lose her job.
Yeah.
And she wasn't intentionally misleading us or trying to con us or anything like that.
100%.
It's just that she did not want to face up to the reality.
And I think there was part of it too or there were multiple times too that she thought things were getting better and things were getting back on track. And again, I definitely don't think anyone was being intentionally misled. I just think that she thought things were moving in the right direction at times. And then again, we would get backtracked or they would get backed up again.
Yeah. It just goes to show that, like in this case, and we've already touched on this a little bit, but I want to nail it down, that sometimes people are not capable of doing work at the expectations that you have. And it's the same thing in your shop. You could have a service advisor in your shop who is not capable of keeping up with the pace of the shop.
Right.
Especially if you're that shop that runs like one service advisor to 3 or more technicians, there are going to be very few service advisors who can do a great job at that kind of ratio. Yeah. And I understand that if in your business that's the ratio that you have to run, then that's the ratio that you have to run. I would challenge you on it a little bit, but that's the way that you run your business, and sometimes people can't handle that. And that's exactly what was going on here, because when all of this happened, like when it all came to a head, we did let this person go. We parted ways with them. And Hallie came to us and said, let me at it. I want this. Yeah. And we were very hesitant because Hallie at that time was running the digital ads department, which was just this fine-tuned machine. Yeah. Like Hallie is one of the most systems-oriented people that she can absolutely keep up with the agency pace, and her teams just thrive.
I'm very, very proud of what I've built the ads team into, but it was purely all built on processes and systems that were designed to keep up with that pace. And I'm also very lucky that I have a team on the ads team that has also been able to keep with those processes and systems in order to keep up with the pace. When I saw system and process breakdown in the web team, it was one of those things that I was like, okay, let me get my type A hands on this. And that's exactly why I came to you. I said, hey, I feel in a really good position on the ads team, and I know I can make these processes on the web team better. Like I was excited about that challenge.
And it was crazy to watch because we ended up saying, okay, this is your baby, take it and run. And I was very excited to know that we had Hallie in that position, because I knew without a doubt that she would get that straightened up quickly. And she did. And we're going to talk about that. But I was scared to death of what's going to happen with the ads team. But the ads team literally had been running for so long, so smoothly, that it just continued, even without a leader for a while, to perform like great.
Yeah. And again, that's just a testament to our team members on that team, that they did not have a break in their processes. There was definitely a time where I was taking over the web team that I was a half absent or halfway in, halfway out leader on the ads team. But because we had those processes in place, they knew to just keep it running like a well-oiled machine and stick to those processes that have worked.
Yeah. So talk to us a little bit about what you did when you stepped into this.
Yeah, I think when I initially stepped in, you had told me from the start, there are no sacred cows. What we are doing is not working currently, so I do not have to hold on to anything. Yeah. And that gave me a lot of confidence to go in and make changes, particularly in a department that I'm not very familiar with. So the very first thing I did, and I had known some of the problems going on. So what I did is I stuck to our core values. One of them is integrity. When I think about integrity, I think that sometimes it would be the hardest core value to follow, but it's really not. It's really just doing the right thing. And the right thing to do was just extreme ownership. Own up to our clients. Your website is behind. This is the spot we're in, and I am now here to fix it. And I reached out to every single client individually, and I let them know that I would be taking over and they'd be hearing from me. And we owned up to where their project was at. And then I met with the entire team, and we had one whole meeting where we all just sat together and went through every single project one by one, so I could get a thorough status update of where each project was and make sense of it. And then I provided new launch dates to the clients, because something that was missing before was not only communication, but realistic expectations with the clients. We had clients that, quite frankly, some of them were holding up their own website, but they were never told that they were holding up their own website, and that comes with expectation setting. And we talk about setting expectations all the time in marketing, and that wasn't being done either. So we set new launch dates. And I remember one of the things you told me too was, okay, we set new launch dates. We cannot miss these new launch dates. And so you came to me honestly and said, what do you need from me to not miss these launch dates? And that's when we hired Outside Help. But also, I think something I did with the team that kind of brought us all together and gained their trust a little bit was I went to them open and honestly, and I said, I am not a website designer. I am not a website developer. I'm purely in this seat to keep us organized and on track. So I'm relying on you guys to tell me what can be done, what can't be done. And then it's up to me to set the expectations and the communications with the client. When I did that, what I found out from the team is that's all they needed. They didn't need me to tell them how to design a website or develop a website. They just needed me to give some structure and some timelines and some deadlines. But just communication and structure is what was needed and missing in that process, not only with the clients, but with the team as well.
I want to thank our friends at RepairPal for making this episode possible. They're on a mission to put trust back in auto repair. You're an honest shop that delivers high quality work and great service, right? Well, millions of consumers looking for mid to major mechanical repair look for shops like yours in the RepairPal Trusted Network. Contact them to get certified today and receive 1 month free service at RepairPal.com/shops. Being in the RepairPal Certified Network helped us grow our shop's business, and it can help yours too with new customers and a higher ARO. Plus, you don't have to worry anymore about arguing with customers over price because shops in the RepairPal Certified Network are trusted by consumers for being fair priced. Not low priced, fair priced. You have to be in it to win it. So head over to RepairPal.com/shops to learn more and set up a call. When you sign up, you'll get 1 month of service free and save $150 off certification. Independent auto repair shops, get ready to transform your business with AppFueled. It's time for your professional auto service shop to have its own customer loyalty app. AppFueled will build an app that launches a custom loyalty program for your shop in 30 days or less, fully integrated with your point of sale system. Bring Fortune 500 level customer retention strategies to your business without the Fortune 500 budget. Many shops are enjoying the benefits. Our app engages your customers with a loyalty ladder, enticing them to climb the next rung, coming back more often and spending more each visit, all with your own app. Build loyalty with your customers to your brand and boost your shop's growth. Get your first app in 30 days or less, all without breaking the bank. Ready to start? Let AppFueled take your business to the next level. Go to appfueled.com or meet founder Jeremy Glasgow and book your complimentary app vision session at appfueled.com/Jeremy. That's appfueled.com/Jeremy. One of the learning points from everything that Hallie just said. Okay. And look, I am far from a perfect leader. Okay. So I'm not tooting my horn here, but one of the things that this actually was, it was the downfall of what initially caused this problem, but I'm not a micromanager.
No.
I do not believe in micromanaging at all. I don't want to be micromanaged. I don't want to micromanage people. I want to hire people who are capable of doing an amazing job and let them go do their thing. And when you have a problem like this and you bring someone in who is going to fix that problem, you take the chains off and get the heck out of the way.
Yeah.
And let them do what they do best. You know, it wasn't for me to go in there and tell Hallie how to do this because it is not in my skill set to have gone in there and done that. I'm not a systems person. I would have gotten caught up 100%, but it would have looked very different. I mean, I would have went in like a wrecking ball.
Yeah. Which is funny because you told me not to do that.
Yeah. And that's because I know my weaknesses.
Right.
But the whole no sacred cows thing, man, that is the problem with so many businesses is that people have these sacred cows.
Yeah.
And by sacred cow, what we mean is there's a way that we've done something and that is the way that we're going to do it until the end of time and it is never going to change.
Yeah.
And you can't have sacred cows when you have a problem in your business.
Yeah. And I will say, like, as such a process driven person, there are times that we've even had talks where you're like, we got to change the process, Hallie. And, you know, as a process driven person, you can get stuck in the process. And I think what really enabled me to go in and change the process is, again, one, you told me from the beginning, no sacred cows, but two, I didn't know the process.
Yeah.
You know, it was a completely new process and department for me. So I was able to go in with a fresh perspective too, which really helped.
Now, when you went in, it was worse than you thought, wasn't it?
It was. There were weeks, maybe a month, that I was regularly uncovering things that I was like, oh no. And things would pop up and I'd be like, oh gosh, not this again, or I found something else. But by that point, when I continued to uncover things, we had already owned up to it and communicated with the clients. And what we found was more clients were okay than we initially thought. Like clients just appreciated that we were owning up to it and that we were now communicating and giving realistic expectations. So when we got to the point that more and more things were uncovering, I wouldn't say it was fine because obviously we didn't like what we were still finding, but the clients were in an okay point at that time.
We had a couple that were not happy.
We did have a couple. I did have a few very, very hard conversations that I did need to loop you in for you.
Yeah, because we're talking about this and we're making it sound like it was this perfect, streamlined, easy process. And it wasn't. When Hallie went in, I told her not to go in like a wrecking ball. But Hallie is someone who, when she does something, she gets things done.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes when you go in there with that get things done attitude, there is some collateral damage.
Yeah.
And that came in the form of at least one person on that team that was not capable of working at the standards and with the processes and everything that you were.
Yeah. And that was honestly really hard for me because I came from a team that every single person on the ads team I brought on and I interviewed from the beginning, and we built that department up together. And then I was entering a department where I was the new person in that department. You know, I've been with the company for over 4 years now, but in that specific department, I was the new person. So I had to gain their trust, and to have someone, like you said, not capable of working within the new processes that I was setting, like it felt like a direct reflection of my leadership. And it was in some ways, but that was hard for me to lose someone on a team that I was taking over because I wasn't able to gain their trust.
Yeah. When this all happened, actually, right before we let the other person go, I was at my peer group meeting. So, peer group being like a 20 group. I know many of you listening are part of a coaching program or something like that. It's where you get together with a bunch of other shop owners. In your case, I get together with a bunch of agency owners in my case. And we knew exactly what was going to happen here. And I was in a good place to be able to consult my peer group. Now I could have consulted them whether we were together or not, but we were in that room. We all present a challenge, and our challenge was, hey, we have a lot of clients that we're letting down right now. I need to know what I need to do to make it right. And I was ready to give away the farm. And they calmed me down. We're like, this is not as bad as you think it is. In reality, we had 31, I believe, website projects that were going on. When I say that all of them were behind, it doesn't mean that all of them were past their due date at that point. They were not.
Correct. No.
There were probably half.
Yeah. And I think when we say like behind, it just means they're behind in the process to not launch on time. There were multiple reasons that projects were behind. You know, some of it was on us, some of it wasn't. But yeah, behind as in like they hadn't already passed their launch date. Right.
And I'm thinking, man, we have 30 clients right now that we have just let down. They hate us. They're out there talking bad about us. And, just that's what we do as owners is we think the worst. But my peer group showed me that that is not the reality of what is going on here. First thing you have to do is get an inventory of exactly where you are with everything. And that's what you did when you first started. And instead of going in and just giving away the farm, when Hallie made everybody aware of what was going on, set new launch dates, and also many of these people knew you already.
Yeah, that's true too.
And that helped as well, because not only did they know Hallie, but they know how professional Hallie is and how good she is at getting things done. So that gave some people some comfort. But I would still say that most of them did not know who you were.
Yeah.
But all that they needed was for us to recognize the fact that things were not going the way that they were supposed to, and we have a plan to fix it. I didn't have to go give all of them big discounts or anything like that. And, I'm the type of person that I can't stand it when one of our clients is not getting from us what they should be getting from us, when they're not getting the results. And look, I say it on here all the time, we are not perfect. There are many times that we are unable to provide the results that we typically do. And, there are just cases where that happens. There's outside influences and things that we can't really control. And I hate it when that happens. But that is just a fact of life in this business. Not every marketing campaign, not every Google Ads campaign just knocks it out of the park. Not every, client that we're doing SEO for just has them on page one within, 6 months. Sometimes it doesn't work the way that we want it to. That's rare, but sometimes it doesn't. They just wanted us to recognize this is not right. And the other thing was, when we made that commitment to them to fix it, I believe every single one of those websites hit the new target launch date, correct?
Yeah, they did. And that was like a whole team effort too. Because like I said, when we got together as a team, I made the team aware of all new launch dates as well. Yeah. And those new launch dates were based off of coming together as a team and redoing the process. And so we knew it was doable. And we knew that there were going to be quick turnaround times and that there were going to be hard pushes to get these new launch dates on time. But every single team member was bought in at that point because they noticed a change too. And they noticed a shift in direction. And so they were on board.
But Hallie already mentioned this, but we did have to bring in outside help.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that's beautiful about the world that we're in. It's not as easy in an auto repair shop, but there's hundreds of thousands of freelancers out there in the marketing world that we are able to tap into when needed. And basically, we gave you pretty much an open checkbook, and whoever you need, we're going to get. But one of the questions that I have for you, and I know the answer to this, but for the benefit of our audience, how did you make sure that the outside help was doing things the way that, like following our processes and doing things to our standards, so that you can't tell the difference between a website that was done by outside help versus our inside team?
That was the good thing about starting over in the processes, is when we hired the outside help, the process was already redone. As you know, when we talk about we work off of processes and we work off of systems, we literally have cards and cards of checklists. Part of redoing our process was going through each individual card in the web build process and making sure everything had a checklist item and there was nothing left to interpretation. So when we were bringing in this outside help, it was very clear what we expected from them, but also setting them up for success, not only with the checklist, but with the resources that they needed to build. So all of the brand style guides, all of the photos from our clients, the correct logos. Also, kudos to the team because they are collaborating with people that they don't regularly work with. We have designers working with outside developers and outside developers working with our internal designers. And so it was new to them too, but they also really band together and helped the outside freelance people along. Whether I had to connect them via message and say, hey, let's talk about this here and work this out here. It started with redoing the processes, and we redid that for our internal team, and it worked for our outside team too. Yeah.
And we're fully back to our internal team at this point. There is one of the outside developers that we would definitely consider hiring at this point.
He just finished his last project, and I'm like, stay handy.
Yeah. One little benefit is that you find people who may become a part of the team.
Yeah, that you can rely on, Yeah.
The takeaways from this. When something like this happens in your business, consult your outside, consult your network. And your network might be a peer group. It might be a coach if you have a coach. If you don't have a coach or a peer group, it might be something like the ASOG group or the Change in the Industry group on Facebook. There are people in there that are selfless as far as helping others. And look, they might be a little brash when they do it, but it comes from a place of love. And I can tell you that because I know some of the most harsh people in those groups. Yep. And they are the most giving people that there are. But they're not going to tell you what you want to hear. They're going to tell you what you need to hear. And they might tell you in a way you wouldn't want them to. Yep. But they will give you some amazing advice, and they will tell you the truth and help you to see the reality of the situation. That's the first thing. Second thing is rarely ever as bad as you think it is. With me, I thought the sky was falling. That was my initial reaction.
Well, it's easy to feel like that as an owner too. And we have had many talks where I've come to you and even, as a department head, I'm like, I'm panicking. And you and I have to talk each other off ledges too, just as owner and department head. But when you get down to it.
Yeah. Thankfully, we're rarely ever panicking at the same time.
Yeah. That has been the good thing.
Yeah. So we can help each other, out with that.
Yeah.
Don't give away the farm. When something like this happens, people just want you to make it right.
Exactly.
That's it. And that's the other thing is make it right. Even when you look at it and the numbers, they hurt to look at, you have to make it right. It's one of our core values is integrity. And that's such a typical core value when it comes down to it. But it doesn't matter that it's a typical core value. We cannot have our core values without integrity being, at the core of our core values.
Yeah. And it drove us in so many situations, but the perfect example is this situation. Like we had that to rely on. And because that was set from the beginning with leadership, like that is what us as a team default to as well.
Yeah. Out of a couple of those clients who were not happy, there was one of them. She was tough.
That was the hardest conversation I've had with a client in so long. And luckily, I do feel so grateful that this was a client that I already knew from handling her ads, and she already knew me. Look, this client, she's just a very real client. She's not even client. She's a very real person.
Yeah.
I knew if I was real with her, she'd understand and she'd appreciate it. But that was a tough conversation.
I thought we're done. We've blown it with this client because that was a tough one. But just recently, she sent us a message, and literally in that message, it said, "I'm so glad I found Shop Marketing Pros." And she was talking about the results that she was seeing from her marketing. She loves her website. And we just made it right.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, some are a little harder because some of them you just tell them what's going on and they're like, "Oh yeah, that's fine." I ran into one of our clients at ASTA. He was telling me that his website was launching the following week. And look, I don't know. Like we have so much going on. I can't keep up with what's happening with every client. So I don't just know that your website is going to launch, next week. And he was telling me that. And my reply to him was, "Oh gosh, were you impacted, badly? Like, was it super late?" He was like, it launched about 30 days late, but it's not a problem. I didn't care because I know that I held up some things on my end. And I told y'all in the kickoff meeting that it wasn't a rush. Now, the thing that he told me that kind of just stabbed me in the heart a little bit was that he said, "Yeah, I heard kind of in the industry that some things were behind or something like that."
Yeah.
And at that point, it did tell me that, okay, there's some discussion happening out there about this.
Yeah.
And, even then, it's still not as bad as you think it is. He's the only person that I know of that has mentioned that. Our reputation, as much as I'm like, this is going to kill our reputation is still great in the industry. And it's the same with your shop. Just because you have a comeback, you're going to think that comeback is going to destroy your reputation, but it's not.
Well, in that conversation with that client at ASTA, we had a hushed conversation after in the hallway at ASTA. And I mean, that's how this podcast came about too, is that was like our comeback, right? And you use it. So like you said, as much as you think it's going to hurt, it's actually a tool for you to gain not only that customer's trust, but your other customers or your other audience that you may be targeting out there. It's an opportunity to gain their trust as well. Because like you said in the very beginning, like people don't trust people.
Yeah.
I had a client ask me a few weeks ago, there was a reviews page going on their website and they said, "Should we only show the 5-star reviews?" We can absolutely do that. We can completely filter the widget that we pull reviews from on a website. But my reply to him was, we can absolutely do that if you want, but here's my suggestion. And I use what we teach all the time in classes, because I've heard you say it so many times too, is no one's going to trust a shop with 500 5-star reviews, all perfect. In my head, I'm going to look at that and say, are you paying for reviews?
Yeah, 100%. That is a factual statement, is when someone has a lot of reviews and they're all 5-star, nobody trusts that.
Yeah.
They're like, nah, something's wrong here. When you have that 4.7, And the funny thing about this is I've actually seen in some of the groups somebody celebrating getting that 3-star review.
Oh, yes.
Because it knocked their rating down a little bit, and they were happy about that.
Yep.
And that sounds crazy, but that's the reality of marketing. Anyway, we had one other client that he was forced to pay for his website to stay up a bit long, his old website to stay up a bit longer. And he did ask us to compensate him for that. And we did. I mean, it's one of those things where, and I knew this going into it, I was not going to fight with a client about this. I was going to do whatever it took to make it right, but not only just make it right, but to make it right in their eyes. So that's something that's important too, is when something like this happens, everybody needs to come away from it feeling good about it, because you might make it right, but do they think that it was made right? Right.
Do they feel it? I think is the most important part. Can they leave the situation feeling good about it? When their website launches, are they okay with it at the end of the day?
He was at ASTA.
He was.
And met him in person, got to talk to him. He loves us.
Yeah. And that was my first time meeting him too. And also going to events like that just humanizes people to each other.
It does.
And so, I had a difficult conversation with him weeks before, and then met him at ASTA, and it was like nothing ever happened, because at that point we were meeting in person. We were just two humans to each other, Well,
and at that point his website was launched.
Yep.
He loves his website. So I don't know. Anything else that we should leave our listeners with?
I think the last thing is, you were talking about your lessons. Last thing is just when your gut is telling you something from the beginning, dig in.
Yeah.
Learn for yourself. Like you said, you might take their word for it once, but if it continues, I think the most important part is to dig in. And also to listen to your team around you. I mean, you and Kim say all the time from your time owning a shop, and even now in your marketing company, one person can kill the vibe of the whole team, right? So I think it's important that, you encourage your team to speak up too, if you have that one person in your shop as well that they don't have a good feeling about either.
Yeah. It's so important that they feel comfortable coming to you and telling you something. I know in our case, we had one of our team members that didn't say something because there was a previous time that they said something and they felt like I dismissed. I look back on the situation and it's like, I didn't mean to do that, but I knew something about the situation that they didn't. In that case, it wasn't right for me to tell them.
Yeah.
But you have to make sure that your team knows that you do want them to talk to you and that you do take them seriously when they do.
Yeah. And last thing, I think the biggest thing too, as an owner, like you said, you can't tell us everything. There's so many things happening behind the scenes that we don't get to know right away all the time. But as a team, we also just have the trust in our leadership that you're not blind. You see what's going on. You had that gut feeling for a long time that you will take care of it and you will make it right, not only for the clients, but for the team as well.
Yeah. And I will never let something like that go on that long again.
Yeah.
If my gut is telling me that something is wrong, I might take their word for a short period of time, but I'm going to dig in personally and see the reality of the situation, because this could have saved a lot of challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, look, thank y'all for listening, and thank you to our sponsors, RepairPal and AppFuel. Without them, we could not do this. We are one of a handful of podcasts on the Aftermarket Radio Network. You can find all of them at aftermarketradionetwork.com. I hope that you'll listen in again next week, and until then, go fill those bays.
You've been listening to the Auto Repair Marketing Podcast with Kim and Brian Walker. Follow the podcast on your favorite listening app. Find their emails in the show notes and visit them at shopmarketingpros.com. Let Kim and Brian know what you want discussed, because they're all about advancing the aftermarket.